Two things, two things come across here. If you look at the incident in Paris, the terrorist who was trying to get into the stadium, he got his detonated at the entrance. And even at the GSM market, one of them just couldn't get right inside. Yes. So it then means, it goes back to what you were trying to say about some level of alertness, sensitivities of the people. Perhaps they now know that people look, there's a way you can actually look someone in the eye with every suspicion, and perhaps that could also deter you. Now, what can they be doing when you know that sometimes, even though they can't get access into the main hall or market where the big crowd is, how do you stay off when you know that this person has no value for his or her life, and he or she might just be strapped in an explosive vest?
Yes, for you, the safety levels will depend on what our law enforcement and intelligence agencies can do to break the will of the average suicide bomber to freely carry these things around. Our towns are littered with lampposts, our towns are littered with bridges and pillars across very major roads. There are some roads you just must pass through before you get to certain places. You can call them strategic roads. And these roads can actually carry a lot of sensors. You may just traverse them without even knowing they're there. And you see, when you don't even know where the sensors are, a level of diffidence manifests. Yes, we're not looking at 100%, returns or nil returns, but we can get as close to it as possible. You see, having a suicide bomber come up to you and then you detect it in itself is very risky. Okay, he could just, as you said, detonate at the point he knows he's been detected. But then there are ways a suicide bomber can actually be detected way before he gets to that place.
Because that's where I actually wanted us to look into. If we now know that the people have this level of alertness and understanding about the threat level in their communities, it then means that they also should be fed with more and more knowledge as to how to curtail or avert some of this.
Yes. Looking about awareness again, there has to be a paradigm shift, a mentality shift across board. Most people talk about security awareness or security consciousness, but then that's not the real thing. Security consciousness is a state of being. It's a state of being that dawns on you when your security threat awareness levels is high. If you teach people security threat awareness, you will see security consciousness dawn on us. Let me put it to you easily so people listening can connect with me. If you take a walk in our towns, you see a lot of accidents waiting to happen. That lopsided pole, that container that is driving and is not properly strapped onto the vehicle. But because threat awareness levels are not key, people virtually live their lives. They even shake hands with danger and sleep and wake with it. The only time they know it's dangerous is after it has happened. Okay, but if threat awareness levels are hyped, you're going to see security consciousness just sit naturally amongst us. So we are going to actually begin to look forward to see law enforcement agencies who may even want to outsource and have people do it at community level.
We should start thinking of outsourcing?
Yes. You see, there's too much on the plate of the police, the armed forces, for them to start actually bothering about certain small things that can be outsourced. There are people, thank God we have linguists all over this country, the over 200 ethnic groups, that if it has to come to going to villages and speaking to people in the tongues they understand and telling them the security threats that live within them. What do you call that man who wants to steal your NEPA cable? He's a security threat. What do you call people who actually will want to puncture pipelines? They are security threats.
What can we take from the Paris example? Because I'm looking at the people now, because everything concerns the people.
Really?
And the effort of the people in helping the security operatives is very key here. We saw how everyone pulled together when it happened in Paris and across Europe. To the extent that governments in other parts of Europe were able to trace and track some of these people. How can we, talking about security agencies now in the country, collaborate to the extent that information can be better shared, and some of these information can also reach out to the people in terms of tracing and tracking the movements of some of these persons?
Yes.
Is that possible for us?
Yes, it's very possible. While I must commend and while I must commiserate with the Parisians, I will also commend their security agencies, because response, not reaction, was prompt. Now, how do you begin to track people down in less than 24 hours or even 12 hours? It happens if you have database. And how do you begin to store database? It's your ability to measure everything. We should be able to have markets where you can have an information system that will tell you precisely how many people have checked in through that gate and how many have left. And if you subtract the number, you get a rough estimate of what you still have in the market. In fact, at the close of that market, you should be able to know if there are some people in there that haven't left because the numbers are not tallying. And
but sorry to interrupt you. I'm wondering, markets are... We have all sorts of markets. Some of them are planned, some of them are very unplanned. I mean, you look at a market like Tedrosho Market now in Lagos. Let's look at some markets we know in Lagos. It's big, well-planned markets. After it got burnt and it was rebuilt, you know, standard market. But look at, say, the market at Isaleku, for instance. I'm trying to remember, is it the Balogun market, where you have a lot of high-rises, I mean, and then you have a lot of people selling things around those buildings, stretching way into the market, and, you know, and I'm wondering how, for instance, if the government were to say, we want to build a fence around this market, how is that going to be possible, or we are to organize this market?
That will start.
You think that is feasible?
And foremost,
yes.
When we begin to tell ourselves where markets can sit or not. I once saw a nursery school that was actually upstairs, and you know what was downstairs? It was a vulcanizer's place. That's the level of madness we have attained here. There are some places markets have no business being. There are some places churches have no business being. If you want to have your markets in that kind of location where you sleep, you should also get ready for the downside of it. And that's what they exploit, these people that want to get to you. Market areas should be defined. I'm sure somewhere within Isaleku they can find enough room to move a market. Or else, when the chips are down, they can begin to look at government and law enforcement agencies and blame them for those things that they themselves have refused to embrace.
Good a place for us to wrap this morning. We'll stay on this matter. We do hope that those in authorities would be listening, and the people also. Now it falls into planning, as you highlighted.
Indeed.
If you really have to get some markets and also see how you can put some security in place for these people in places like markets, malls, and even motor parks.
Motor parks, exactly.
So, Captain Umar Aliyu, many thanks for coming on the program this morning.
You're welcome.
We'll take another break. We'll return shortly. Stay with us.